Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the press. Let me wish you a happy and successful 2026. Hope that you and your families have the best year ever as we strive to make St. Lucia the best place to live and work. Also, I'd like to observe a few minutes silence on the passing of Lisa Joseph. You remember Lisa Joseph and I have been very friendly exchanges, and I always told her, "You're my friend," and we laughed at that, and we promised to have a long and extensive interview with me, but that interview did not happen. So I wish to express my sincere condolences to her family, her friends, and to you in the media fraternity. And we also have to realize that we are in this world for a while, and sometimes we have to think about many things before we act and say many things, because it's something that is death is a very painful thing, very painful, and I feel your pain, and I must tell you, I never carried, and I still don't carry any personal animosity against anyone, much less a journalist. And I always dealt with her with the highest level of professionalism, understanding her role. So I want to again express my sincere condolences to you and to her family. Having said so, can we proceed with the press conference this morning? I addressed the nation last night. First of all, it was my usual New Year's address where I thanked the St. Lucian public for them expressing confidence in the St. Lucia Labour Party and returning us to government with a record. It's a show of great confidence and trust in us that we were re-elected with an increased majority and increase both in the popular vote and in the number of seats. It's a responsibility I take very seriously, and I can assure you that the government will continue to do what we always do, which is putting the people of St. Lucia first. Our policy, the manifestation of our policies was clear in that the people of the St. Lucia voted for us. They voted for us on our record, and we will take that job very, very seriously. This year, we will continue basically on the same path that we ended the last term with. In terms of infrastructure, the Grocery Highway, work on the Grocery Highway will commence most likely in the first half of this year. The Honora International Airport, the terminal building, the tenders, it went through international tender. The largest infrastructural project in the country went through international tender, and the tenders, I understand from SLASPA, have been opened, and we should be getting from SLASPA before the end of March. We should be getting from SLASPA a result of the tender and who will be awarded the tender for the construction of the Honora International Airport Terminal. And when all that's said and done, that work should start by the middle of 2026. The Grocery Police Headquarters will be opened. I've asked that it be part of our independence celebrations, so we shall open it for independence, part of our independence celebrations. In terms of infrastructure also, the housing project at Talvan is progressing, and the housing project at Rockhall is also going to be progressing this year. this year, we also are going to be formally handing over the lands to many people who was here for more than 30 years. You may remember that we had a policy of making the land available free of charge to people, crown lands, free of charge to people who were there for more than 30 years. That policy is going to be um, is formally is going to happen this year. In terms of education, you may notice that we have a minister in charge of continuing adult and special education. That is very important to us, extremely important to us, in that we found that many children go through the system, and by the end of the 5 years at secondary school, they basically are functionally illiterate because of different issues. And the teachers, they work very hard, but you need a special task. It's a special task. You need a special kind of curriculum to deal with special needs children. So we are working on that, and this year there'll be great emphasis on that. As a continuation of our early childhood education trust, we promise that early childhood education is going to be free in this term. So that trust is going to continue. In terms of social development, I've always expressed concern as to what's happening to our young men in the society. And apart from the fact that we have many social programs, this year we are going to go into a strategic alliance with the Care Institute that has a very good record as it relates to 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 putting the two factors together: work and dealing with young men who seem to be at risk. So we're going to be having a strategic alliance with Care to supplement what we are doing now with the TVET schools and to supplement what is happening at SSDF. We also, this year, we're also going to look at the environment. We'll take very seriously the degradation of the environment with old cars and once the cars, derelict cars and abandoned houses, houses that are abandoned, sports land that's abandoned. It's not only it's an unsightly site, but it's also a security risk. So this year we're going to take very seriously the issue of abandoned cars being left on the streets or and on the roadways and derelict houses. In terms of our fiscal policy, you may have realized that we give some further incentives to pensioners. Pensioners pay no tax, whether it's a government pension or pension from the private sector, they pay no tax. We also increase the level of allowances, and in Parliament, at the next sitting of Parliament, we are going to make that law. And it's retroactive from 2025, so there's further tax relief for the people of St. Lucia. We expect the investment profile of the country to improve and to continue expanding. The Alia Hotel ought to be open this year, and we're looking forward to the start of the hotels on the Rodney Bay in the Rodney Bay area, and there's tremendous interest in private investment. So expect the investment profile of the country to continue. So 2026 it's very exciting year. I'm very optimistic about 2026. But as you know, the usual downsides: climate change, hurricanes, droughts, which is the normal thing that you have in countries where, apart from the fact that we are not in control of these elements, we are small, open economies. And now, what you're very excited about, the MOU with the government of the United States. Let me make it abundantly clear. There's been no agreement with the government of the United States. So I can't tell you numbers. I can't tell you anything about numbers, nor can I tell you anything about conditions, nor can I tell you anything about anything of that nature. There's been no agreement with the government of the United States. What we've signed, as most countries have signed, is a MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding. The Memorandum of Understanding is basically a framework for dialogue and cooperation with the United States as it regards to nationals from third countries who are presently in the United States and the United States seeks to want to get them out of the United States. St. Lucia is not the only country that has signed. Guyana has signed. Most of the countries in CARICOM have signed. Larger countries like Papua New Guinea have signed. So St. Lucia is not new in this regard. I want to make it also abundantly clear that I've had absolutely no, as of today, what time is it? 10:50. I've been told the Prime Minister of St. Lucia has not been told by the government of the United States of any change as far as visas are concerned for St. Lucians. It's 10:50, 50 point a few seconds now. I've not been told. The Prime Minister of St. Lucia has not been informed by any U.S. government official of any issues as it relates to visa requirements for St. Lucians. So we've signed that MOU, and we are presently negotiating with the American government as to the terms of that MOU. When that is ready, I will inform you as to how many people will come, as to what is happening for the housing, etc. I will inform you on that when I have that information. I don't have it now, so even though you ask me, I can't tell you. That information is not available. What is clear is that in the MOU, it is clear that criminals, people with criminal records, known criminal records, will not be part of that exchange. People with criminal records will not be part of that exchange, and information regarding their health, as far as is legally possible, will be given to the St. Lucian government. I can't take anything else because I do not know anything else, apart from the fact that you've signed that MOU with the government to accept nationals from third countries to come to St. Lucia. People basically who the United States have deemed they have no legal status in the United States, and they're going to be sent to third countries. As to when it will happen, I can't tell you either because we have no date or time. So these are all the details I have, and the MOU is a document that is not a secret. And I will ask the people in the press. And the only reason why you haven't got a copy of the MOU is because that is not how countries operate. Countries do not operate by making these documents public, particularly when there's been no agreement as to specifics. When you're going to get specifics, you're going to get all information in one: number, time, place, area. When we have no specifics now, what we have is an agreement that nationals from third countries will be sent to St. Lucia at the complete discretion of the government of St. Lucia and the government of the United States. Nobody will send, the United States government will not just send people here. We're going to be discussing it. It's a mutual understanding with a diplomatic ally. And you know the United States is a major diplomatic ally and a major country. This is all I can tell you about it. And everything else is speculation. Everything else is speculation. I've always told you that I always tell you the information that I have. I know sometimes you get very annoyed with me when I say I don't have the information, but I can only speak the truth. If I don't have the information, I can't tell you I have it if I don't have it. Right now, I do not have any further information. Questions? Hi, Tony. What's up?
Hi, good morning. Happy New Year to you.
I knew you would have been number one.
How are you?
Like I knew you.
I just want you to reiterate something you said. I have some other questions, but just to confirm, the details of the MOU will not be made public.
All right, I'll tell you something. The statement that I made on the MOU, which I'm sure you will get a copy of the speech, is basically what is in the MOU. That's basically what an MOU. I mean, it basically is what is in the MOU. There is nothing different than what's there. It's the MOU is it's a document that's signed that deals with the potential transfer of certain third country nationals present in St. Lucia. It's non-binding and it's at the complete discretion of both governments. It's important to make that point that it's at the complete discretion of both. St. Lucia can say no. St. Lucia can say no. But St. Lucia did not say no. But St. Lucia can say no. Or could say no. Right? And it's a framework. And then even if we sign the MOU, that doesn't mean that people start coming tomorrow. And I just want to make a point, Tony. There are people who seem to be gleeful. They seem to be happy, as if it's something that will affect, as if if the United States and St. Lucia is in problems, it's good, it's a great thing. You understand? I am the Prime Minister of St. Lucia. I most likely I will always have a diplomatic visa. That's a fact. But it's the people of St. Lucia that will suffer. So when people deliberately peddle false information and peddle panic and peddle discord, all aimed at affecting the Prime Minister of St. Lucia and the Labour Party, that does not help us. And we are living in very sensitive times. St. Lucia is 238 square miles, very sensitive. And we as St. Lucians and you as journalists, I can never tell you what to do. I respect your profession too much. But you must understand, I don't know if you saw the latest memo from the BBC and the guy something Owens, he was advising his journalists what words to use. The BBC. So we are living in very sensitive times. So when people are gleeful, just because they believe that it will affect me, for now it won't. For now it won't. I haven't broken any law. I will not break any law. So for once, it hasn't. For once, for now, it won't affect me. So it's the people. So you have to be more responsible when we are making these statements that can be damaging. When we quote all sorts of sensationalism, hoping that it will affect me, or the people of St. Lucia just re-elected us with a spanking majority. That is the choice of the people of St. Lucia, and that choice will remain until, God spare my life, I decide to call the elections next week or in 5 years' time. So I think we should just settle and let's work together. And I want to work together with everyone. The election campaign is over. It's over. The people have decided, and they have not decided in small measure. They've decided convincingly. So let's work together. I'm pleading. Let's work together. The world is in a sensitive stage. The world is not what it was. There is nothing to be gained when we spread discord for our own egos or to affect people personally. I'm making that plea. Let's work together. Please. It's too sensitive. Sorry, Tony.
Yeah, just to shift gears, just to follow up to additional questions. You mentioned in your preamble about climate change. We just came out of a WASCO press conference earlier today. The forecast doesn't look too good in terms of the dry season and so on. We've had issues with the infrastructure, which everyone agrees is outdated. But we also have the issue of the distancing of the dam, the Rosal Dam. We've heard subsequent governments lay blame at the feet of one or the other. But I just want an understanding as to moving forward, what are we going to do about the desilting of the Rosal Dam once and for all? That's one question. And before you answer, I just want to pose my second question right away. You also mentioned in your preamble the Rockwall housing project. I would just like to know if that project still remains a CIP project, and are there new investors involved in that project? So you could just address those
The,
two questions.
the last one is much easier. We've made it clear, very clear, that the investor was involved in the Rockwell housing project. He is no longer working in the government of St. Lucia, making clear. So the Rockwell housing project is going to be continued by the government of St. Lucia. And in the first one, Wasco, Tony, is one of the things I lose sleep over. We need, and don't use it against me, we need possibly about $200 million to get Wasco back on its feet. That's reality, right? Having said so, I want to implore solutions to begin water harvesting. The rules now say you must have water storage, but there's a big difference between water storage and water harvesting. And I want to tell everyone who can, and again, I would like you, members of the press, help us in this regard. You members of the press, help us in this regard, to try to ask the public of St. Lucia to harvest water. Rain falls all the time. We've removed all the taxes on pumps, on water tanks. And I'm looking to see if I can remove all the any taxes that exist on gutterings, etc. So people can begin to harvest water. Because the Wasco situation is not only a local situation, it's a worldwide situation. The earth is getting drier. That's a fact. Now, in terms of the Rosa Dam, Tony, there is a forensic report on the Rosa Dam that was done. And you may ask me, why haven't we made that report public? Because the reason why you have made public is what the report is with the Attorney General. He's having a look at it. And then, as I always say to you, we have to do things fairly, and we have to do things with proper legal boundaries. The Rosa Dam, there is a report on the Rosa Dam. All I can tell you is that the circle of the Rosa Dam did not meet its stated purpose. That's what I can tell you as a fact. That the circle of the Rosa Dam did not meet its stated purpose. That's a fact. Secondly, there is also a report to the NUC, and you may know that is why in my new cabinet configuration, I removed the regulation of the utility services. I removed it from the NUC, from one ministry, and I put it in a separate ministry, because you cannot guard yourself. The ministry in charge of administration of the public utility services was the same ministry regulating it. So I removed it from the ministry. I separated it. There is an application with the NUC for an increase in water rates. There is an application. That application has not been opined on by the NUC. There is an application. You must also understand that the cost of water in St. Lucia is very, 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 very affordable. Affordable in that compared to the cost of generating water is at an affordable cost. The government of St. Lucia, as we speak, subsidizes Wasco every month. Apart from the normal subvention, the government subsidizes Wasco every month with $1.2 million. Part of that money is used to pay Wasco's electricity bills, because Wasco owed Lucilec millions of dollars. So part of that money goes straight to Lucilet, so that Lucilet bill can be lowered, and the other goes to Wasco's operations. Plus the fact that Wasco government also gives a subvention to Wasco. So government is supporting Wasco to the best of its fiscal ability. Government is supporting Wasco. But the Wasco problem, as I said, is a very, 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 very complex problem. But we have to start at the very beginning by let us harvest water. Very simple. Let us harvest water. When the rain falls, the water just. People have tanks, but the tanks that they have is to store Wasco's water. Very simple. And I don't know whether you can begin, because that is the thing. The press must not always seek to confront people, or to confront politicians, The press should seek to work for people. And working for people means, and I'm sorry, I know I might get crucified on a talk show for saying that. Working for people doesn't mean you always have to criticize. Then I said, I want you to tell people to harvest water. Think about the savings you can have having. You see, at my house, most of the water I have in my house is harvested water from the roof. But because rain falls all the time. Now we in a drought situation, so rain will not. So I want to put, and you'll hear me say that over and over again. And they might attack me for saying it. The same way they attack me for saying my father is a policeman, was. They might attack me for saying that. Let's harvest water. Let's harvest water. When you go to your home tonight, look at the guttering at your house and see how we can save some of that water in a tank. At least you can use it to flush our toilets, to wash our cars. Let's look at that. Because why is it Wasco will not be repaired tomorrow or next week? It's a long, the pipeline is compromised. The dam still has to be, and Wasco has a lot of loss. They lose revenue because many pipes are compromised. So you go on you go on the street, you see a pipe, Wasco. Government fix the road, a pipe below, Wasco. And this is why the road costs are so expensive, because I've said that we're not fixing any roads unless you can get the pipes, the plumbing done before. That is costly. So the Wasco issue is not going to be solved tomorrow. And no one can solve it tomorrow, because no government will have $100 million or $20 million. This is just a fable that politicians talk about. So let's start by harvesting water. Let's start by ensuring that when you have simple leakages in our pipes, we get it. We get it fixed. And let's start also by paying our small water bills.
Two things, sorry. Still on the water, seems to be a bigger issue than what we're understanding right now. We no doubt would have realized the many water trucks heading to the north of the island on a regular basis, coupled with now the many huge projects coming on stream in terms of the hotel projects and others. In the immediate, how do we plan to deal with this? What is the thinking going forward?
You're right. It's a problem that I agree will not be solved tomorrow. Desalination, we have to look at that. We'll probably have to give incentives to hotels for that. And Wasco also has to look at a lot of things. There's an idea that there's groundwater in St. Lucia. People are saying that there's groundwater in St. Lucia. Wasco will now have to seriously look into working with people who believe they can explore groundwater. We can't, we can't just sit down and complain and die. We have to look at new things. I've spoken about harvesting. We have now to look at groundwater. There are people who believe that there's groundwater in St. Lucia, and Wasco will be instructed. Wasco will be instructed to look into people who are willing to, people who believe that there's groundwater and who are willing to exploit. Wasco will be instructed to go around that path, because the government will not have $200 million now. We've just got a loan from the Caribbean Development Bank to work on a major pipeline. That loan, we have to go to Parliament very soon for it. As I said, we subsidize them $1.2 million a month. So Wasco will have to look at new avenues, and Wasco will have to speak to those people who believe that there is groundwater. But it's a very complex problem. We'll have to give incentives to hotels to use seawater. The incentive, we have to increase the incentives for that, because there's a serious problem, and you're very right, Ryan, with water. It almost reaches a situation where we have to be concerned, or we are concerned.
The other question, let's go back to the MOU. And of course, you've reiterated that the information is short with regards what happens next, or what is going to happen right now. Is there any indication with regards the funding of those people in Citizenship?
That is going, that'll be part of the agreement. Right now, in fact, what we've instructed an ambassador to do is look at agreements that the U.S. has met, as the U.S. agreements that the U.S. has with other countries, and let's see what happens. But right now, there's absolutely nothing on funding on it.
Morning, Mr. Premise.
Morning.
Two questions. The first, on global issues, on the ground, there's a sentiment that due to certain international actions, small island states like ourselves are losing our sovereignty, our ability to make decisions for ourselves, our ability to preserve our culture and history. This is your second term. What efforts would your government be doing to ensure that St. Lucia remains, an autonomous sovereign state?
Let me tell you two things. Number one, my focus is on the people of St. Lucia. My focus is to improve the quality of life of the people of St. Lucia. This is my focus. My second focus is the people of St. Lucia. My third focus is the people of St. Lucia. So all I do, any decision that I take, I have in the back of my mind the people of St. Lucia, not speeches or being on the world stage, but my issue. Anything I do, anytime I go to bed in the evening, and I pray to the Lord that He makes me wake up the next morning. My focus is, what can I do to make the lives of the people of St. Lucia better? Not for the next speech I'll make at the UN or the next conference I'll go to, the people. So I have to reshape. I have to reshape all what I do. Thank you very much. I have to reshape all what I do. I have to reshape all my thoughts based on what's happening in the world currently, and based on how it will affect the people of St. Lucia. This is my concern is nothing else but the people. So I agree with you, but sometimes it may be necessary to take decisions that are not within your normal thinking or your usual thinking. But I have to protect 185,000 people who have entrusted me with no uncertain terms. Because I don't know if you realize what has happened to St. Lucia on the 1st of December. The people returned to the government with an increased majority. I mean, it's historic. And when people have placed that confidence in a government, the government cannot let it down for egos. So I'll tell you something. I understand the scene, the global scene, but I will not sacrifice the welfare of the people of St. Lucia. Never.
Oh, and thank you. So the second question is, um, in your victory address after December 1st, you outlined that your government will be taking more decisive measures in terms of preserving culture and history. Recently, we saw the passing of Dr. Gregor Williams. Before that, we saw the passing of Ambassador Jean. So, moving forward, can you inform St. Lucians that you would be, or that your government will be taking more steps to ensure that we don't have more unsung heroes in St. Lucia, more unsung historians and scholars and people of great degree?
Yeah, we have, and I agree with you. And we will be having discussions with the folk, with the FRC. You see, sometimes there's a lot of suspicion as to when government gets involved in culture, in calypso. Like I want to invite you to the official residence for a cocktail. I'm afraid they say I try to buy you all. I hope when you invited you come, because it's a very strange thing when the government gets involved in cultural things. They say it's political and things. So what we've done, and under the able guidance of the Minister of Culture, what we've done is that we've funded many of these activities. There's Emancipation Day, there's La Wars, there's La Marguerite. We've never found so much support in these cultural events. But we prefer that the art form develops, and the government supports. But the government, to get the government directly involved in it, we are not going there. But we know that there are people, but this government encourages that kind of growth and that kind of development, because you must admit that these cultural issues, these cultural events, have got a further impetus with our government.
Good morning.
Morning, Ms. Martin. How are you?
The EU's eighth report under the visa suspension mechanism states that despite the MOU signed between the Eastern Caribbean CDI countries, they still see the program as a risk and will be reviewing it. Is this of concern to you? Have you had any conversations with?
Well, it's of concern to me, but all we can do is do what is within our control. And what we do within our control is ensure that we've signed that MOU with the governments of the CIP countries. We right now, there's a training in biometrics in Washington next week. We are attending. We put in all the due diligence that we can to ensure that our program is clean and is transparent. We're doing all we can do, but we can't control the EU. We have no control. All we can do is put our house in order, and we are putting our house in order. But that thing is a bigger picture, which is better we don't discuss at this point. It's a much larger picture, not as simple as it sounds. Much larger picture. But we're doing all we can as a country. And again, we need the press to support us in these ventures. We need your support. We don't want you to be gloating when the EU writes that. Because this year, do you know there are countries in the region where the CIP revenue is about 60%. It has decreased to 60%. It was more before. 60% of the revenue. So there is no need for us to gloat. In St. Lucia, it's not 60%. St. Lucia is about 10% of our revenue. About 10, 19%. So St. Lucia is not as dependent. And that is why St. Lucia joined with these other countries, because we have to be in this thing together. So we should be trying to convince the EU that what's happening is unfair to us. Very unfair. Very unfair to us. Because we've done all we can do. Anything, and you must understand the history of that. Our bananas weren't good. I don't remember the bananas. You're much too young to realize to know that. Much, much too young. we sent bananas to England with pie with pie banana. You just wrap the bananas in leaves and send it to England on a boat. People carry it on their head and send it on a boat. Then they moved to put it in boxes. Then they changed. They say you must watch it. They must wash it. So you have to have boxing plants. And they say you must put toilets on the fields. We put toilets in the field. Then they say you must wash it. We washed it. Then they said the WTO rules-based trading, so we can't send it again because we are competing with Costa Rica. Imagine that, a small country where the farm was not more than the largest farm, 50 acres. You deal with acres and acres of country. They said we were unfair competition, so they stopped it. Then we were in financial services. They said, then when you started, they said, oh, it's money laundering laws, the EU laws, and this and that, and the ring fence, and so they stopped it. Then they stopped it again. Now in Serbia, so you must understand it's a bigger thing happening. And small islands, no say vet Liverpool. And this is why it's so important that we are measured, particularly now, especially now. We have to be measured in these islands. We have to begin to guard our interests and guard our country. And forget about Pierre, the Prime Minister. No Prime Minister can influence in any meaningful way what's happening in the world now. You see what happened? You saw what happened last week. What Prime Minister can influence that? In the small island? So when we make all these, we write all these things and want to, and the objective is to get at me. It doesn't make any sense. It's a bigger picture. And I want you as journalists this year, I want you to look at that bigger picture. And I'm not asking you to be government spokesman. I don't want you to be government spokesman. I want you to look and see we are living in times that is never before. These times are unknown of. These times are unknown. We've never lived in these times before. History could not predict what's happening now. But we have to live with it. We have 185,000 people to protect. We have to. So I really want to plead with you this year. First, to look at this thing from a completely different angle. Elections are gone. We've won. We won big. But let's be a little more circumspect now, because the times aren't easy. Not easy at all.
So would you say that in times like these, especially, there needs to be greater unity between the government and opposition?
Well, the opposition, yes, there's one seat in parliament, but which we always cooperate with that with in parliament. You know, the leader of opposition post is a constitutional post. You know, I mean, the number of people there is a function of what the people decided. But the government, we open. I mean, if you notice, the government has taken a very reflective. We've been very reflective. We've been very sober in moving forward because we know the times are going to be trying. You know that. We haven't gloated. We haven't done anything. We've just ensured that we continue to run the country in a way that will benefit the people of this country. But we're ready to cooperate with anybody. We're ready to have a discussion. We want to have a discussion on CIP. Let's discuss it. Tell me what you do different. Tell me where we went wrong. Let's have a discussion on crime. You've said so all the time. So you're ready. We're very ready to talk to anybody, including the press. And I'm concentrating on the press because Owen Arthur once told me, he said to me, I think there's an election where somebody won all the seats. He said, you think you all don't have opposition. You don't know what's the opposition? The press. I never forget Owen Arthur telling me to do it. He said the press is going to be the opposition. But I'm saying to the press, let's work together. We're in trying times, we're in difficult times. Being a prime minister of this country now is a difficult thing. Not apart from the economy, things that you have no control over. You don't know what will happen tomorrow. You have no idea what will come down tomorrow. No idea. No idea. That's not that's not a very good situation to be in. No idea. You cannot determine that will not happen or that will happen or there's a fixed pattern. There is no fixed pattern now. No fixed pattern. Anything can happen at any time.
Like that, Prime Minister, your impressions on the thinking that the CIP before too long will die a natural death.
I think the CIP as it exists will die a natural death. May die a natural death, but not the CIP. Because there are many people in the world who are stateless. Many people who have no passport, they have no identification, they're stateless. Many people who've been displaced, you understand? And they need some form of identification. They've been displaced. So as it exists, it may be so, but I don't think that the program as itself will ever die a natural death. That's my opinion. Okay, thank you very much. When is Lisa's funeral? Not announced. Will somebody tell me? I'd really like to be there. Please. Have a good day.
Thank you.